Welcome back, Pudlings. Today I'm going to get right into it and I'm going to talk about the top 5 things I love about my bike, the 2012 Honda CBR600F. So if you're interested, stick around, sexy people, and I'm going to jump on the bike and crack on. Right, so Pudlings, here we go then. I'm going to crack straight on, and the first thing I'm going to mention about this that I love is that reliability. It's a Honda powertrain. It is absolutely bulletproof. It's a 4-cylinder inline 4 engine, and the engine just, it does not miss a beat. I mean, when you're discussing Hondas anywhere under 40,000 miles, it's still basically new. But yeah, it is. The reliability can't be questioned when it comes to this bike, because it is just that good. I mean, you tell me a Honda that's not reliable. Really, when you're talking Japanese manufacturers, you're pretty much always going to be pretty bob on when it comes to that. Oh, this is a nice steep slippery hill. I'm not going to enjoy this. And apologies yet again for the weather, but it does seem every time I come and do review type videos on this bike, we get weather like this. If you go back to my previous video doing the full review on this bike, the weather was just as bad, if not worse. So we got to live with it, but it's fine. It's the UK. Summer in the UK, that's all I'll say. So, there's not much more to say on the reliability really. Everything seems to tick over pretty nicely. I had a little niggle with the indicators, but I think there was a little bit of loose wiring from over time, because I bought this bike with like 13,000 miles on it, so it's gonna have little niggles, but in terms of the running capability of the bike, not a chance in hell has it got any issues. So secondly, the price. Now, we all love a good bargain, especially us in the UK, and especially up in West Yorkshire. I think Northerners are probably known for wanting a bargain. And if you're wanting a 600 with 100 brake horsepower, I don't know if you can go much better than the price of this, because like I said, they're reliable, so a bit of extra mileage is fine. A couple of years old, that's fine. These are about a decade old, just a little bit more, and only cost around 4,000, which that's what I paid, and I think that's a fairly consistent price across the board. As you can see, they're all sort of sat around there, similar mileage, so I think it's a really good accessible option for those with not quite as much money to be able to go out and buy a ZX6R or something like that, to get a reliable, fast, comfortable-ish motorbike from the get-go. So that's another reason I don't really think you'd be too far wrong committing to one of these things. And that's not biased, low cost is just a factual benefit. Now third, probably one of the big important things that brings everyone to the bikes to start with, the looks of the bike, the aesthetics. Oh, designers. What do we think? Because I personally think it's gorgeous. I think it could have a bit of an improvement with a dual headlight. I'm not the biggest fan of single headlights on sports bikes. Don't know why, just doesn't tickle my fancy, because it's quite a large halogen headlight, whereas I do quite like the thinner, sleeker dual headlights on the Hondas. Much more like, I suppose, the CBR600R. But all in all, I do think the bike is lovely and it looks awesome. One of the things I do quite like about it as well is it's almost like it's only part faired. You don't have the fairing that comes all the way back to the pegs and covers all the engine. So it's almost like, I've previously stated that I like naked bikes, brutal, no fairing, but I also like sports bike, fully faired, clean look, and this sort of is a little bit of a mix of both. So I think if you like a bit of anything, it's a good option looks wise. And especially in the colour schemes that you get. You can get it full black, you can get it black and red with like quite a cool livery on it, or you can get it black and blue. The black and blue's probably the plainest, well, other than the full black, but the plainest coloured version. But I do think it's clean. When you've got fully faired sports bikes, I do like that clean look. Like, you know, you've got your Ducatis, it's just full plain red. I think they look the best. The only problem with the looks of this bike is I think personally it kind of looks a bit like a Suzuki. we can get past that, because all in all it is pretty good looking. Now let's talk about the handling of the bike. So this is quite a big one for me, because I commute, so I like to have a bike that can be whipped around a little bit, and I do think personally that this does deliver on that. I think you can really whip this bike about. To say it's quite a heavy option for a middleweight, I think it's pretty crazy how much you sort of can whip it about. It feels lovely through corners. I'm gonna just go this way. It feels lovely through corners, really nice on the throttle, nothing's too snatchy, brakes are lovely, brakes aren't too snatchy. The rear brake is sort of one of the downfalls, but front brake works lovely. And I know when I've gone out in the Yorkshire Dales, this thing's lovely, and if you need to lean it over just a little bit more, I know it's probably more dependent on what tyres, but I feel like you can do. It's got quite a satisfying smooth output, especially through the gears as well. So you almost feel like you're better at riding than you are. Not always the best thing, because it can mean you get overconfident, but so far not quite got there with this bike. And especially for a beginner, if they're just stepping up to a 600 like I was, I think it is a really accessible option, because it's not scary. Well, depends what you do, I suppose. You know, any bike can go quick with the twist of the throttle, but it's not an intimidating option is what I mean. Unless you're a little bitch and you are intimidated. I'm just joking. Because as a beginner, what you want is, you don't want a snatchy throttle, you want a smooth output. I think smoother outputs make much more sensible riders to start with. Anyway, until they get bored and they want to step up. Right, so we've talked about the price. We've talked about the looks of the bike. We've talked about the reliability of the bike. And now we've covered the handling of the bike. So what's left? Well, this is definitely a bias point, because I've got an Acro exhaust system on. But I think the sound of the bike is pretty damn awesome. Now I know there's bikes that sound nicer, but when you've just stepped up from a 125 and now you've got an inline 4 screamer that outputs 100 horsepower, game changer is all I'm gonna say. Game changer. And it's so satisfying when you're doing one of those big pulls, under the speed limit of course, big pulls, and you get higher in the rev range, and that inline 4 just wants to scream more and more the higher you get. Woo-wee! God, I love it. God, I fucking love it. Now, those are my top 5, okay? But I think an honourable mention, which isn't an effect on me, this is why it's not going in my top 5, but an honourable mention, which I've been told by Mrs. Pud has to go in the video, because there are a lot of backpacks out there who need to know the pillion seat on this and position on this is really good for a sports bike. The pillion seat isn't a 2-piece on this sports bike, because it's not as committed of a sports bike, it's more of a sports tourer, if you will. So it means it's one piece, almost like bench type seat, and it's really spongy, comfortable, big marks, top marks from Mrs. Pud. She loves it, and she loves coming on the back of it. So if there's any backpacks, pillions out there who want to know what it's going to be like to go on the back of things, who want to convince their husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends who ride the bike that you need to get rid of your Fireblade, get a CBR600F so that my back's not getting killed in a pillion position. Get onto them. Because it's important the pillies of the world have a voice too. Do you know what I'm saying? So get on it. Come on, bitches. Sort of in conclusion, I suppose, most of the boxes are ticked really for what you'd want in a bike. You've got reliability, that's going to keep the cost down. The only things it's kind of, I've not noticed it being an amazing thing, so I couldn't really involve it in a love it, is your fuel economy of the bike, because I do seem to be filling up an awful lot. And the MPG is definitely much closer to that of a super sports bike, so It's not the best thing, but it's not something I'd love or hate, so I'm very neutral on that. You will have to let me know in the comments what you guys think. TJ, I'm talking to you. What do you think? And also, let me know if you end up buying one of these, because I'm intrigued to know what other people's opinions are. So back to Adam off of the bike. Boo! Well, there you have it. If you've stuck around to this point, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, comment if you haven't already, because that is the most important thing anyone will ever do in their entire life. Sub to Pud. Pud sub. Stop doing that, Adam. Let me know what you think, if you agree, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!